Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of WealthAbility Live. My name is Hannah. I help doctors to build financial resilience so they can have more money in their pocket and then they have better lifestyle. But when it comes to wealth, it doesn't limit to money. We also talk about health is your wealth, and also very important thing is self-care. And this week is a mental health awareness week. And I think it's a great time to talk about self-care. So today, our guest is Dr. Sally Graddon, and she's an expert in this topic. So she's a founder of the Life Balance Doctor, and she had a career in medicine, and she had her own journey to finding her own passion. Okay, so Dr. Sally, thank you so much for coming here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Great. So, before we start, perhaps you can tell the audience more about yourself and your work.
Well, as you said, I was a doctor myself. I was a GP trainee, and I left medicine, it was about 10 years ago now.
Wow.
I had my eldest daughter. And so through a very long journey, I have to say, I now help other doctors to really work out what they want from life. I help them to find balance in their life. I help them to reconnect with themselves and really follow their dreams and go out there and create it. And so I say I help doctors who dare to dream of a life outside of medicine. And some of my clients stay in medicine, some leave, and it's all good as long as they're following their hearts and their passions.
Wow, that's great. So, because I know you are hosting a webinar and you have your own Facebook group, so you are helping doctors to find their own passion. You said you before you were the doctor yourself. So perhaps you can tell us more about your journey and what's your process of a transition. Is that easy? Is that hard? So what was that like?
Oh, for me, I found it very hard because I had no support. I did it all on my own, basically. I was the classic, I wanted to be a doctor from about 2 or 3 years old and never considered any other career. And so medicine was my whole identity. I'd either been going to be a doctor or I was a doctor. And so walking away from that, I felt almost bereaved, if you like. I knew in my heart it was the right decision. And I always say it was the hardest and the easiest decision of my life because I had to give up so much, but I also knew it was the only way for me to be truly happy. And dealing with the guilt and the shame around leaving medicine, the disappointment of my parents and walking away from the financial investment as well as the time that I'd invested in all my training was really, really hard. And it was an incredibly lonely period in my life because at that time, very few doctors left medicine. Very few doctors talked about leaving medicine. It was quite a taboo subject. And I think even now, although it's becoming more commonly talked about, it's still something which many doctors feel a huge amount of shame about and guilt around letting people down or feeling as though they're letting people down. And so I had to say earlier, I had my daughter and I really threw myself into being a mother, and I replaced my doctor identity with the identity of mother, which in retrospect wasn't terribly healthy either, but it was my way of coping. And I've now got 3 children, and on that journey, my children have taught me so much. And I really wanted to be a better mother for them. And that was a huge driving force for me. And I started delving into the world of meditation, mindfulness, Buddhism, learning all of these different things which seemed sort of a bit out there to start with for me, coming from such a logical background. And I really realized that was what was missing for me, was this time to really honor those parts of myself which were perhaps not so tangible. And along that journey, I realized that I needed more than just being a full-time mum. As wonderful as that was, I needed to start using my brain again and doing some things that were purely for myself. And I came across coaching And overnight, I knew, I literally had a physical reaction when I watched somebody talking about their own journey to being a coach. And I switched, and that's what I did. And I've been doing it ever since. And it's been the most wonderful journey of self-discovery, confidence building, because again, my confidence plummeted for a very long time, and I simply didn't feel worthy of talking to anybody, especially doctors.
Yeah.
And creating a life that I love, and I love helping others to do the same.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So you mentioned after you left medicine, you started discovering things like meditation. You discovered your true self.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think, is that something like the lack of connection with a true self, is that common in doctors?
Yes, I think it is. And I think that a big reason for that is because as doctors, the type of people that tend to become doctors, who want to become doctors, tend to want to help other people. And so that is a wonderful thing. Helping other people is incredible. But it can come at a cost if you don't look after yourself as well. And I always say that you need your cup to be overflowing. And it's only that which is overflowing which you can give to others. You can't give to people from an empty cup. And it's so easy as doctors to keep on pushing yourself harder and harder and harder. We all know the hours that doctors work, the stress that they're under relentlessly day in, day out. They feel completely burnt out and overwhelmed. And through those many years of studying and training, you find that the doctors I work with, their hobbies have been dropped by the wayside, that their relationships suffer, that they simply don't know what they do to make themselves feel alive anymore. I was working with a doctor recently who, she realized as we were coaching that she'd stopped singing, and it was the thing that made her feel more like herself and more alive than anything else. But she didn't do it anymore because she didn't think she had the time. Mm-hmm. And when she realized that, she actually burst into tears. There was this huge realization that was what, for her, was a huge part of what was missing and what was wrong. I mean, obviously it ran deeper than that, and there was more to it than that, but that was one thing which she could really easily work on that changed her life completely.
Wow, that's wonderful. So when you mentioned like the client you work with, she discovered singing, and you mentioned quite a lot about leaving medicine. Like, because we know doctor working as a doctor, because my clients, I have lots of doctor clients, I know how hard they work. Mm-hmm. And it's like very stressful work, and it's a people's lives.
Yep.
Yeah, it's hard. So do they have to leave medicine in order to discover themselves?
No, not at all. And many of the clients that I work with, they come to me identifying as being curious about leaving medicine, or certainly as being unhappy, burnt out, stressed, overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. But they perhaps, aren't sure if they want to leave medicine or not. And what I find very often is that as we work together, as they start to reconnect and reclaim those parts of themselves, which actually they feel might have gone forever, and they realize that it's still there. Mm-hmm. Or actually, another interesting thing that I do notice is a lot of doctors that I work with tend to realize that they've never known themselves properly, that they never took the time to explore those aspects of themselves and really work out who they were as a person, because they made the decision to be a doctor at such a young age. And the workload from teenagers, young teenagers who know they want to be doctors is immense. So a lot really had never worked out who they were truly. So by going through that process and working out what they want, maybe it can be surprising what small tweaks can make a huge difference in their lives. And for some people, yes, they want and they need to leave medicine in order to be the best version of themselves and to really fulfill their potential and live their dreams. But there are an awful lot of doctors as well who can make changes in their lives in general or within their careers, and it completely changes their life. So no, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing. You have to leave to be happy. That's certainly not the case. It's something to look at and to not brush under the carpet and be afraid of exploring, but it doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah, that's absolutely. So you don't have to leave medicine, but what's important is you do take the time
Mhm.
to discover yourself, what's your passion, and
Mhm.
make sure you have that in your life. And
Definitely.
then you can bring more happiness in your work as a
Yeah.
doctor. And then
Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful thing because when doctors, they are healers, obviously,
Mhm.
when they have the happy energy with the patients, and then I think that's more effective.
Oh, yes, definitely. And I think, as I said, you can't give from an empty cup, and you see it all the time with mothers. I work with a lot of mothers as well who spend so much of their energy looking after their families, their children, their partners, and at work as well. And you get snappy, you get angry, you get short-tempered, and you don't want to be like that with your family or your patients. It's just not something that feels good. It doesn't allow you, sorry about my dogs.
I love it.
It doesn't allow you to express yourself and be yourself fully, and to really effectively heal people. So
Hmm.
I think it's actually a really important part of the whole thing is to take responsibility for that and to acknowledge that and realize that by being what some people might call selfish is actually the very opposite of being selfish. By taking that time for yourself, by exploring the things that you want and need to, that supposed selfishness is actually incredibly selfless.
Yeah, yeah. I really like that because it's like taking care of yourself is actually the least selfish thing to do. But of course, I know from my perspective, like as a business owner, sometimes I do that. I have that tendency as well. And also, I know quite a lot of mothers also running businesses or doing their work. They also have that tendency, like overgiving, but then in the end, there's nothing left.
Yep.
So as we know, doctors, they are like working as a doctor. It's very hard. It's like long hours, but also because the challenge at the moment in the healthcare is it's a short of staff. And do you think is that still possible for these doctors, like within coping with this challenge and at the same time still have the time for themselves?
Yes, absolutely. Don't get me wrong, I know from personal experience and from the doctors that I work with how challenging it can be and how incredibly overwhelming it can feel to even consider trying to carve some time out of the day for yourself. But actually, as I said before, it's one of the most important things you can do, and it is always possible to find 5 minutes to drink a cup of tea. It's always possible if you prioritize it and if it's something that is important to you to find ways to bring in pockets of self-care. Self-care has this image that it has to be, you have to go and take a weekend retreat at a spa, or go and spend a week up a mountain or something, and it's simply not true. You can find some of the greatest relief in sort of micro moments, micro pockets of self-care where you're just centering, you're grounding yourself and reminding yourself that you're allowed to be human, you're allowed to feel tired, that you're allowed to need a break. And it's when we keep pushing ourselves and driving ourselves relentlessly that's when we break apart, and that's when doctors' mental health falls apart. There is a huge mental health crisis within the NHS from the doctors, the physical health as well. Then when you're in that point of crisis, you simply can't help properly. I don't know what's wrong with my dogs, I'm sorry.
your dog agrees what we were saying.
I don't know why they're going bonkers tonight. They're normally quiet when I'm
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
so
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yes, it's like it's all about prioritizing, but also I suppose doctors, because I do believe, taking care of yourself, it doesn't have to be time consuming. It doesn't have to be expensive. You don't have to spend loads of money in a spa. You don't have to, even if just taking a few minutes, just breathe and just be present. And that helps a lot. And also it's about prioritizing yourself. And I suppose as a doctor, because they are healing others, they are helping others with their health. One thing they can do with their health, I think taking care of their own health should be the priority for them.
Definitely. And that's where so many doctors fall down, I think, because they're continually looking to help other people. They're continually looking outside of themselves. And it's very hard when you're in that place to look within and actually ask yourself, what do you need? You know, what do I need in this moment and in general? What is it that I need to feel the best version of myself? What do I need to be to feel the healthiest? And it's very easy to get stuck in this cycle of, you get up in the morning, you get breakfast for the kids, you drive to work, you stay there for however many hours you're there for, you get back, you cook dinner for the kids again, and then you put them to bed, and then you crash out and go to bed yourself. And there's no conscious thought of what am I doing for myself in that. And as I say, there are always ways of carving out time, and it's prioritizing and realizing how very important it is, and realizing that actually life might feel a whole lot better if you took that time for yourself. And, you know, again, I always talk about children. You know, do you want to be teaching your children that you should be crashing through your days, going from, you know, lurching from this place to this place and not looking after yourself? Or do you actually want to teach them to have self-respect for themselves? And also for you, if you're there not looking after yourself, then why can you expect anybody else around you to treat you with that respect? Respect that you completely deserve, and care and love that you deserve. But if you're not treating yourself with it, then it's very hard to ask that from other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we touch a lot of hints, like for doctors, because I know it's very easy to just want to get on with the work, want to get on with helping the patients. Quite often just neglect themselves. So we kind of touch a hint a little bit, but what are your approach to help doctors to shift the mindset?
Oh, well, there's a whole series of steps that I take doctors through. But the main foundation is self-care, because without that foundation, nothing else works. So I always start with the basis of self-care. And we work on reconnecting with themselves and really helping you to work out who you are, what's important to you, what your core values are, and then putting them front and center of your life so that every decision you make is based off those core values. And also putting boundaries in place, which is nothing we haven't mentioned tonight, but is something which is also so vitally important, because without boundaries, everything goes wrong.
Yeah, that's important.
And really, also, the other thing which surprised me, although it shouldn't surprise me because I had exactly this problem myself, is that so many doctors really struggle to know what skills they have. You know, that they really don't think they've got anything to offer outside of medicine, which is completely crazy. But I relate because I went through exactly the same thing myself, of this feeling that, well, if I'm not a doctor, then I have nothing. And I have no transferable skills. But actually that's something which we work on, is to really dig in and see what skills you do have, because I can guarantee that there are an awful lot there, and skills which people would bite your arm off for. So, we also work on confidence and decision making. So your intuition is something which many of us ignore, or have actively turned off. And so I work with doctors to really tune back into that intuition again and learn to trust themselves. Because, again, a number of doctors that I've worked with actually really struggle to trust themselves. They sort of feel, well, if I made a mistake choosing medicine or staying in medicine this long, how can I trust myself to make other decisions in the future? And so helping them to trust that is a huge part of it. And working to release the mindset blocks that doctors have as well. There are so many things which are holding them back that they're not even aware of, and it's really peeling back those layers to shine the light on them so they don't have that hold over you anymore. And it's why I struggled so much myself when I left, was because it took me years to hire a coach myself and ask for help. And I know a lot of doctors, they struggle on by themselves, thinking it's something they should be able to do by themselves, that they should be able to work it out on their own. And realistically, when you're right in the middle of it, you can't. And you really need somebody there holding up a mirror and asking the right questions, which is what a good coach will do, to allow you to see all of those things that are holding you back. So there's more to it than that, obviously,
yeah.
but they're some of the main things that I do, and also helping people to really identify what their passion is, because again, that's a really scary thing for some people because they've never given it much thought. And so it's helping to really tweak that out and work out what their dreams are, so that they can then go forward and work out what steps they need to take to get there.
Wow, that's amazing. So yes, like a mindset shift, it does take work and it does take time, and doing all by yourself. It's not saying it's not possible, but it can be hard, because it's like, I can definitely relate to that. It's like stuck in your head. And sometimes it's good to have someone seeing it from a different perspective. So that's amazing. And perhaps you can tell people more about, if they want to know more about your work, how they can connect with you. And also, I know you are hosting a webinar for them. Perhaps you can talk about all this, what you offer.
Where to start? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can always connect with me on Facebook. Obviously, you can see my name on here.
I already put a link in the the link of the Facebook group is in the description of this Facebook Live, as well as the webinar registration. So, but I will let you to explain more about that.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Okay. So you can always send me a message through Facebook, or connect with me through my website, which is sallygraddon.com. And then, yes, my Facebook group, it's quite a new group. So we are relatively small in number, but it's a very lovely group. And it is a secret Facebook group, because I had doctors contacting me saying that they were worried about people being able to see that they joined this group, because again, the stigma around leaving medicine. So you need to apply to join. There's a few questions to answer, simply to keep the group safe. And as I say, it's a secret group. So you've got the link there to click and join. And then the webinar, I'm hosting a webinar on Thursday morning at 10:30 a.m. UK time, which is all around how to make the decision to leave medicine, how to find balance in your life and go after your dreams, basically, and how to release the guilt, the shame, and be true to yourself along the way, and actually still have time to spend with your family and not feel overwhelmed. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's the first time I've run this particular webinar. So
wow. Congratulations.
So I'm really excited about that, because it's basically pulling together everything that I've been through, the work that I do with my clients, and putting it all into one place. That should be fun.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you very much for sharing. So if you want to find out more, and make sure you do either go to the Facebook group or you join the webinar, so you can find more about self-care and have a better work-life balance. Okay, thank you very much. So just a little bit final thing. Because early on we were chatting, and you said you learned a lot after you left medicine, like things outside medicine. What was your biggest lesson?
Oh gosh. I don't know. I think the biggest things for me was learning to trust myself, and learning that I was worthy of being happy, that I was allowed to make time for myself, that I was allowed to enjoy watching my children grow up and not be out all day working and feeling as though I had to be tied to that. And I think that freedom, that happiness is something which no amount of money or supposedly solid careers can give you. And so for me, my children have taught me the most out of anything, and watching them and their love for life and really allowing myself to be a part of that's been pretty magical.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, so thank you very much, Dr. Sally. So all the best for your business, and just a little bit final thoughts for the audience. Again, make sure if you like to have more in-depth resources on self-care, Dr. Sally's work, and make sure you do join her Facebook group or jump onto the webinar. And also, this show, WealthAbility, is going on every week, every Monday. I will go live via my Facebook page. And also, if you like more resources on money, on wealth, so make sure you do jump onto my Facebook group as well. The link is also in the description. So, okay, thank you very much for everyone. Thank you very much for joining, either watching me live or watching replay. And I hope to see you very soon.
Thank you.